Hey guys, welcome back to my channel, and if you're new here, hi, welcome. My name is Leslie, and for today's video I'm going to be doing my labor and delivery video. I wanted to get this up before I actually forget, since it's still fresh in my mind. It's about to be a month in 3 days. I cannot believe that my baby's about to be a month old. Like, I feel like we just came home. Like, it's gone by so fast. It's crazy. Don't forget to hit that subscribe button and hit that like button. If you watched any of my other videos, you would know that my pregnancy was high risk. So they were monitoring me weekly at like 32 weeks, I think, or 30 weeks. They started having me come in every single week so they can monitor the baby, make sure the baby was continuing to grow. My baby, he was crying, but he's trying to take a nap, so I'm just gonna cover him a little bit from the light. Our 36-week appointment, they told me that the baby was already like 6 pounds 7 ounces. So when my doctor called me and told me that on July 10th, Wednesday, which was my last checkup appointment and ultrasound, that she wanted to monitor me, and depending on how my blood pressure was and everything and the baby, she was gonna see if she was gonna induce me either that morning or that evening, like whatever, if the hospital had room for me or anything like that, she would give me a call. We wake up early on Wednesday, and I don't know if my husband was really nervous. For some reason that day, like, we were running late. Like, he was taking his time, or like he was kind of like pacing back and forth. And my appointment was early. It was at like 9 in the morning for an ultrasound. Houston's traffic is crazy, and I was like, oh my god, there's no way we're gonna get to the medical center in like 15-20 minutes. Like, I have to call and tell them that we're running late. So I called and I told them that we were running late, and they actually told me that my ultrasound was gonna be canceled. And I was like, but this is my last appointment. Like, y'all have to check on the baby to make sure that, you know, he's okay, and I'm gonna be, you know, if I'm gonna be induced like right now, or am I gonna be induced at night, like what the heck. And they told me, no, don't worry, it's coming. They're still gonna send you to the hospital anyways, and they'll check you there. We check in and we're there waiting, and some of the 10 o'clock didn't show up, so the ultrasound tech was like, you know what, I'll go ahead and take you. And honestly, I think like everything, like people say everything happens for a reason. Go get the ultrasound, and they start checking me, and she starts checking me and everything, and she starts telling me how big the baby is measuring. And she told me, oh, the baby is 6 pounds 7 ounces. And I'm like, wait, that was the same weight he was last week? And she's like, he was? And I was like, yeah. So then she starts, you know, second guessing and like looking at everything from last week, and then she starts getting like kind of nervous, and she goes and alerts the doctor that the baby did not grow at all from last week. So the baby stopped growing at 36 weeks, and that was because of my high blood pressure. And they're like, okay, you have to go to the hospital right now. We have to get you induced like right now, this morning, because the baby stopped growing. So the placenta is no longer like, you know, giving nutrients to the baby, and he needs to come out. Check me in, and they put me in a room, and everything, like I said, starts getting real, you guys. Like, they start hooking me up to the IVs, and I honestly think that was super painful. They told me everything that was going to be happening. They were going to start me on a type of medication that was going to induce labor. It was just to start getting my body ready for that labor process, because my body was not dilated at all. They were going to start me on Cytotec, which is like a little pill that is to start preparing your body for labor, just to induce labor. It was going to start a little bit of contractions in your body. First thing that they were going to start me on, to see how my body reacted to it. So, you know, we were just basically waiting. Like, they gave me this pill. I didn't feel anything at all. This is a very painful part of labor, is when they're actually checking you to see if you've dilated, or if your cervix is opening. They're constantly shoving their whole hand into your vagina as far as they can go, and it is super painful, you guys. Like, honestly, it's very painful and uncomfortable. Every single time they would come check me, like that the nurse would come check me to see if I've dilated anything, like they'd shove their whole hand up there, and they'd still tell me like, no, you're still me. Since the Cytotec isn't doing anything, she's like, I'm gonna give you another version of the same thing, but this one actually is like a depository. It goes inside your vagina with like a little tampon. Now, she told me that this one was a little bit more intense, and this one is more painful. It will be like a pain of period cramping, but, you know, a little bit more intense. And since the Cytotec, the pill form, didn't do anything, she's like, I'm hoping by us depositing into the vagina, we'll start thinning out the the cervix, thinning it out, and just opening it. On the depository, they came in around 6 o'clock and they inserted it into me, and I felt fine. You know, I didn't feel anything. It just felt a little awkward because it felt like you had a tampon in, and you know, I didn't start to feel any pains or cramping until probably around like 10, 11 o'clock that night. And it just felt like a lot of pressure, and I constantly needed to pee. And I started noticing that I was bleeding. Like when I would wipe myself from peeing, I was like, oh my God, is that normal? I'm like, maybe it is, because hello, like, you know, your body's opening up. And I remember like sitting on the bed, my back was hurting, and I was having cramps, but the type of cramps, like, if I can explain them, it's like it literally felt like my pelvic bones were being spread apart, like pushed open, like the pressure. So I'm like, this is what a contraction feels like. But this was still at such a small level because I wasn't even dilated, you guys. Like, it was just my body preparing itself for those pains, but it literally felt like my bones were like being spread apart. And they told me, like, we can give you, if the pain starts to be too much, we can give you narcotics. I didn't want the narcotics just because I know that when you have the narcotics, like, it affects your baby as well. Like, it makes them a little drugged up as well, and I didn't want that. They told me that it doesn't affect the baby that much, but what would happen to the baby is it would make the baby super sleepy and very tired. There's a limit to when I can take the narcotics. So if I wanted them, I needed to tell them ASAP. But I was like, no, I don't want my baby all drugged up and, like, you know, his heart rate going down, him being all tired and sleepy. Like, I didn't want that. So, you know, again, like I said, I feel like everything happens for a reason, because later on that night, like, the pain started to get more and more intense, and it started getting to the point where I couldn't sleep. Like, I couldn't even breathe, and they were checking me, and still I was not even dilated. I think I was like almost to 1 centimeter dilated, and I'm like, dang, I can't believe like women like at home are dilated up to 3-5 centimeters and they don't even know. And like, my body was barely opening up to 1 centimeter, and I was already in so much pain. So at this point, I started really thinking about getting the narcotics, you guys, like, because of the pain. Told me, the doctor had came in and she told me that she was going to start the Pitocin at 6 in the morning. So she told me, I'm going to put the depository in from 6 p.m. all the way to 5 in the morning. It's going to be in you that whole time, hoping that maybe your body has opened to a certain amount of centimeters, and then we can start the Pitocin. She's like, but if it hasn't, then we'll have to see, you know, what the next option is. But regardless, she told me she was going to take it out at 5 in the morning, give me a 1 hour break before she starts the Pitocin at 6 a.m. So around 3 in the morning, I really started thinking, like, I think I want these narcotics. I might need these drugs because this pain is getting intense. Then the nurse I had that night, like, she was so sweet, so awesome. I knew something was off. I knew something was wrong because she kept coming in every 10 minutes, every 15 minutes to check and change the monitor of the heart of the baby. Like, she kept trying to find it, like, and I started freaking out and started telling her, is everything okay? Like, she's like, yeah, everything's fine. Obviously, she didn't want to scare me, but she was just telling me that she was having a hard time getting the heart rate of the baby. And I started getting, like, oh, I just, talking about it makes me want to get a little emotional, you guys. Oh, it even makes my boobs hurt. Oh my God. Hard time monitoring the baby's heart rate because it kept going, it kept dropping, and she kept losing the heart rate. So she kept trying to move the monitor around my belly to where, you know, she was catching it. But what was funny is that every time she put the monitor, the baby would kick right there. So she's like, well, I like the fact that he's kicking. She's like, but I don't like the fact that his heart rate is so low. So she's like, I'm just gonna have you move around. So they had me constantly moving from like one side, from the left side to the right side, to see if the baby's heart would increase by me moving, you know, direction. Good thing that I didn't get the narcotics, because if I would have, like, that would have slowed down the baby's heart rate even more, and we would have been in, like, you know, that could have gone really bad. So at this point, I was pushing myself, you guys, because like I said, it was 3 in the morning, and I knew I still had 2 more hours of this medicine being inside me. So I was just breathing through all the pain I was feeling. Like, I was like, I can do this, I can do this. And like, I didn't want to make my husband worry, so I wasn't like telling him exactly how much pain I was at. 5 in the morning, she told me, I'm gonna go ahead and take out the depository. give you a little break before we start the Pitocin. And she's like, and I'm gonna go ahead and call the doctor and just let her know that, you know, we were having a little trouble with the baby's heart rate, and see if she's okay with that for us to keep going with the Pitocin. I said, okay, that's cool. You know, I was trying not to worry as well, because since I have really bad anxiety, I didn't want to have an anxiety attack because I was worried. I was just trying to stay calm. 6 in the morning comes along, the doctor comes in, my awesome doctor, and she just, you know, reassures me that everything is going as planned. She's like, well, I'm sorry to say, but the depository did not work and open you up. Like, it barely opened you up half a centimeter, like nothing. Like, you still not at 1 centimeter open. I'm like, oh my god, like my body was just not ready to have this baby, but he was ready to come out. She told me she's about to start the Pitocin, and that the pain was gonna intensify a lot, and she was gonna take it slowly by dosing. Any time as when we start the Pitocin, we can start the epidural, because, you know, you're going to need it. She was telling me, I already know I'm not gonna chance it with you because of my high blood pressure and my high anxiety. We start the Pitocin, and it was fine at first, and I want to say within 2 hours the pain was so strong. Like, I was having back pain, cramping, bleeding, like super intense pain, and I felt like I couldn't breathe. Like, I was like, oh my god, this pain is so strong. And then to top it off, my doctor comes back in and she tells me that she's gonna do a Foley bulb, which is like a balloon. She told me it was a balloon that's gonna go into my cervix to put pressure onto the cervix to basically open up. And I was like, okay, yeah, like being all calm and everything. She's like, okay, go ahead and lay back, all the way back, and, you know, open your legs, and I'm gonna go ahead and insert a catheter, and with that catheter goes in the balloon, and we put pressure into it until it starts opening up, and we leave it in there, and your body will naturally open. So once she puts the catheter in there, like, it's painful, but it's uncomfortable and painful, but not that intense. But the moment she starts with the balloon, filling that balloon up, you guys, my body went into shock. Like, the pain was so intense that I literally started shaking and convulsing. Like, my body was going into shock. The doctor was just telling me to breathe, that it was okay, that she was almost done. My husband, like, I looked over at him and he was looking like a ghost. Like, he was freaked the F out, you guys. I was freaking out too. Like, I was just like, holy crap, I did not expect it to be that painful. Like, I literally could not breathe, and I was shaking like if I had the chills, like the shivers. Like, it was crazy. And then as soon as, like, she tells me, okay, go ahead and, like, come back up, like, I felt so much pressure in my vagina, like, inside me. It was intense. It was like you could literally feel the balloon full of whatever liquid that they put in there. I guess like medication or water or whatever fluid. It just felt so heavy and painful. I couldn't even sit down, and I immediately started vomiting like crazy. They had to bring me bags, and I was just throwing up and throwing up and throwing up because of how much pain I was in. And then she told me, are you ready for the epidural? And I said, hell yes, like, bring the epidural in. And this was where we ran into another problem, because I have scoliosis in my back. I've always thought I have slight scoliosis, not as intense as I've learned that I have it. I actually have 2 curves in my back. They say I have one at the top and one at the lower spinal area, which is where they do the spinal tap, the epidural. They start, you know, pushing on your back to find like the little, I'm guessing, the spots between your spine bones of where they're gonna insert the catheter and put the needle in that's gonna insert all the medicine that's gonna make you numb. So the lady starts, and she's having trouble because she's saying that my back is curved at the bottom and that's not normal, you know. She's like, your scoliosis is actually really bad, and I can tell that she's nervous. She literally puts the needle in and she starts doing her thing, and she's like, I don't feel she's like, I don't feel pushback. And I was like, what the heck does that mean, like a pushback, you know? And I'm over here like hunched over, like trying not to move and having contractions at the same time, and she's over here second guessing herself, like, lady, you are working with something that can paralyze me and you're having trouble. Like, I started getting pissed. And I can feel her taking out the needle again, and she was like, you know what, I need to call the doctor. I need to call, you know, she basically needed to call it back up. and I started getting really nervous at this point. Like, lady, you already stabbed me once, and they have to use local anesthesia before they insert the catheter. What the heck? Like, you started your job and then you realize that it's in the wrong spot. So then, you know, they call the doctor, and at this point there's like 5-6 people touching my back trying to find the perfect spot. And they're all like, oh, you know, do you have scoliosis? How long have you had it? Do you wear a brace? Blah, blah, blah. And like, they're asking me all these questions, and I'm like, dude, what the heck is going on? Like, can you do this? Like, are y'all gonna paralyze me? Like, do you know what you're doing? And then the doctor starts to reassure me, like the main one. She's like, I'm just gonna walk this resident through this. And I'm like, I would feel way more comfortable if you did it, you know? But thankfully, the resident ended up asking the doctor to do it, because I think that she started getting nervous. And I'm really glad that the doctor took over. The doctor took over, and she started like touching my back, and she ended up going really, really low on my back. And she's like, I'm gonna go lower than I usually like to go. She's like, usually we don't go this low for epidural. So they end up doing the epidural, and it's a crazy feeling. At first, it feels like your body feels real cold. Like, you feel it go down, up and down your spine, like fluid, like shooting fluid. And then, like, it worked, and the pain, I started to go down. I wasn't feeling any contractions, and by this point they're like, okay, now that we got you done and situated, we can call your husband to come back in the room. And I told him everything that happened, and I was crying because I was so scared and so sad, like, that he couldn't be in there. And like, I wanted his support. Like, I just wanted him to be there to like make me feel better. And he just was freaking out even more. Like, he's like, oh my god, babe, like, first that whole balloon situation, and now this epidural situation. Like, you're just going through it, having the pain of the Pitocin and the contractions or anything like that, because the epidural has, you know, made me feel a lot better. And I'm sitting there chilling, taking these contractions, and then the nurse that's on that, you know, that time frame, just like the nurse from last night, keeps constantly coming in and checking on the baby's heart rate. She comes in and she's like, hey, I told the doctor to come check on you because we're having a hard time monitoring the baby. My doctor comes in, and this whole time, you guys, I have to honor the fact that she kept so cool and calm and collected for her patients, which was me and my husband. Like, she didn't want to alert me, she didn't want to freak me out or make me have high anxiety or anything. So this whole time she had a team already waiting outside of my room that was ready for her call to just say, let's go do an emergency C-section, because she already knew from the night before that the baby's heart rate kept dropping and dropping. She comes in and she's telling me like, hey, I need to talk to you. I'm thinking the baby cannot handle the contractions that is happening due to the Pitocin. It seems like the baby is having a very hard time with labor, and I don't think the baby is going to be strong enough to actually go through labor himself. Like, you know, she's like, he's already struggling with the little contractions that you are having, and you're not even open up. I think I had opened up to 3 centimeters by this. Just let you know, if the baby's heart rate keeps dropping within the next 20 minutes, like, we're gonna have to do a C-section. And I got really scared. Like, whoa, like, I'm about to get, you know, surgery. I'm about to get cut open. Like, what the heck, you know? And at this point, my husband, like I said, he was out in the lobby having breakfast with his parents. So I text him like, hey, get in here now, because she's telling me that she might have to do C-section. And my sister, she works in the same hospital, so she was actually visiting in the room. My husband comes into the room, my sister's in the room. She's like, it's gonna be okay. If it has to be a C-section, it's best for you and it's best for the baby. And then the doctor just comes in. She's like, okay, the baby's heart rate just went flat, and I don't know if he is asleep and, you know, something's happening, or if this is just too much for him. She's like, regardless of the matter, he needs to come out, and he's gonna come out like now. As soon as she said that and I gave her the okay, the crew that she had of people waiting outside just burst in, and they were like, we're moving you here, we're scrubbing you down. They scrubbed my husband down. My husband's like, those people have been there since this morning. So this whole time she had that crew outside waiting, just waiting for her to go, like, for her safe. My husband is freaking out. And my sister, since she does work with this doctor, she has scrubbed in a lot of C-sections, and I know the way my sister is very different. Like, she does not get freaked out in medical situations. It's like that is who she is. Like, she takes out all the emotional part of it, and she can just be there and be professional. And I felt like we were gonna need someone like that, like, especially for my husband, because this is a lot, you guys. This is a lot for a person that when you're not ready for it, you know what I mean? Like, it's a lot for anyone, especially first time parents. This is your first time going through anything like this. So the doctor asked me, do you want your sister in there? If you do, like, she can totally be in there, like, she can scrub in. And I asked my husband, because I wanted to, you know, respect what he wanted as well, and he was like, it's up to you. It's there. And I was like, I want her to support you. Like, I want someone to be there holding your hand. Like, I know you're gonna be holding mine, but I want somebody to hold your hand and tell you that it's gonna be. So glad I had my sister, because we had her there for emotional support, but we also had her there to take pictures and video and stuff like that. And she also ended up cutting the cord of the baby, because my husband is like, I can't do it, like, you know. And I knew he couldn't. It was too much. Like, he was already, like I said, white as a ghost, and he was also shaking and pacing back and forth. And my sister, like I said, she's a person that does this very often, so she actually was looking forward to cutting the cord. So they take us into this room, and it's like they open these doors and it's already ready for surgery, like lights above you, everything. More doctors come in, anesthesia doctors, more pain doctors are coming in, and they're telling me that they're gonna give me more dose of the medicine just to make sure that I absolutely don't feel anything. At this point, I don't know if my body started going into shock or what, you guys, but I started shaking again. Like, my body, no matter how hard I tried, I couldn't control how much I was shaking. I was on this table, and they're telling me everything that they're gonna do, how they're about to start cutting me open and everything, and I start convulsing again, and they keep asking me, are you okay, are you cold, are you cold? And I'm like, no, I'm not cold, but I can't stop. Like, my teeth were shattering. My teeth were just like literally, I couldn't stop. I felt like a freaking crackhead, just like shaking. And my husband was trying to like hold me. I felt so emotional, like he was trying to just hold my face to like soothe me. And they told me that they were gonna bring me a heated weighted blanket just to try to keep me, you know, under control. And they kept reminding me, like, they were so nice, those doctors were so nice, and they were just like, you're doing great, you know, this is gonna go so fast, like, honestly, in a blink of an eye, your baby's gonna be here and it's gonna be worth it. And I was just, you know, they just kept telling me everything's gonna be okay. And that's when the doctor starts, and I did not feel pain. I just felt a lot of pressure on your abdomen, like your lower, you know, tummy area. Like, I just felt pressure. And then, you know, as all this is happening, I'm looking over to my sister, and she has a huge smile, like she's so excited. And then my husband's there looking like a deer in headlights, just staring at me, trying to be there for me, but he also looks super pale, and I was afraid that he was gonna pass out. My doctor, she's like, he's about to be here, like he's perfect. And I hear the babies cry, you guys, and I just started crying. Like, I was just so excited. Like, even though all these things that were happening, like, from the fact that the baby had stopped growing, from the fact that his heart rate kept dropping, like the pain that I kept going through with all these medications and them shoving their hands up your vagina every, like, you know, every hour, like, it was all worth it as soon as I heard his cry. But I was shaking so much still, like I still couldn't control my body, that when they brought him over, like, I was scared to hold him, because I was like, oh my god, what if I freaking drop him? So I made my husband hold him first and just kind of bring him next to me so I can like see him and touch his face. And I was trying to see how much my hands were gonna shake, and I was still shaking a lot. So at this point, they told me that they're gonna go take the baby. So my husband got to go to another room with the baby, and they were just gonna check him, you know, make sure that he was okay and everything. And my husband said that he was freaking out at that point, because that, I guess, the baby wasn't crying, and that he kept hearing the doctor say, come on baby, come on. Like, thank god I wasn't there, because I would have lost it. And you know, he's like, eventually the baby started crying and everything was great, and they gave him the baby, and you know, my little sweet Malachi, like, he was ready to come and say hi to his mom, and they started stitching me up. And this is the part where, like, I literally just could not wait for it to be over. One, because I started having anxiety of everything that was happening. When they asked me, do you feel pain? And I said yes. Like, they immediately injected me with more medication, and they gave me a little too much, so I started to feel extremely nauseous, and I started throwing up again. But they stitched me up, and they said they had to do that way I didn't feel pain while they were stitching me up, because there's different layers that they have to stitch you up. Then after they finished stitching me up, my husband came back, and I just remember seeing him. And it's funny because this whole time I was thinking that I was okay, that the epidural, the medication I was on, like, didn't affect me that much mentally, you know what I mean? Like, I wasn't too high or anything, but because I was so able to conversate, I felt like I still knew what was going on. But now that I look back on it, like, I literally kept falling asleep every 5 minutes. Like, people were trying to make conversations with me, and like, I feel like I remember the conversations very vaguely, but not everything, you know? So at this point, I remember my husband coming back in the room and him giving me the baby, and they tell me, we're gonna do skin to skin, mommy. And I'm like, okay. And they're gonna put me into the recovery room. So they make me open up my gown, and they get the baby, and they basically take off all his little clothes that they had put on him. It was just a blanket, and they put him on me. And I just remember crying, you guys, like, just crying as they're rolling me. I want to cry now. As they're rolling me to the recovery room, just because I just literally could not believe that he's here, and that, you know, I'm like, wow, like, all this for him. Yeah, I just remember just like crying and being very excited and happy. And then they put me in the recovery room, and immediately my baby latched on. It was so beautiful. Like, I was so excited. And then they start doing like these types of checks on, I don't know, they start like checking the baby for stuff, and they start checking me or whatever. And this is the stuff that I don't remember, I think because of the medicine. Immediately they had an alarm go off, like the nurse that checked the baby, an alarm, and she said that she was gonna have to take the baby, and they were gonna have to put him in the NICU, in the NICU. And I would just remember saying, oh, okay, like, yeah, okay. Like, I was so calm about it, but honestly, I don't even remember that conversation at all. And they were saying that my baby's blood sugar levels were extremely low, and that he had to get fed immediately. And obviously I didn't have anything to feed him yet. I had no milk coming in. My colostrum either, like, was not coming out. And especially since you had a C-section, when you have a C-section, sometimes it takes longer for your body to realize you're no longer pregnant, and it needs to start producing milk and colostrum. So they told me, you need to start pumping. They immediately brought in a lactation consultant and gave me a pump to start pumping. Like, I remember her very vaguely, but then, like I said, they had a whole ass team, like, outside the door ready to take the baby in this little incubated tube to take him to the NICU. And my husband was freaking out, and he's the one telling me all this, because honestly I don't remember this part. So I go back to my room after that. Like, after I'm recovering and I'm doing better, they send me up to our room that we're going to be staying in. And that's when it hit me that my husband tells me the baby's in the NICU, and you know, they're trying to bring up his sugar levels, but they can't, so they have to feed him formula. And you know, I'm just had major surgery, so I can't walk, I can't go see my baby. So my husband was the one that had to go up there and spend time with him, but then he was also trying to come and be with me. The nurse that was taking care of me in the recovery told me that she was gonna put me on hydrocodone and pain medication and ibuprofen. And as soon as I peed for the first time after they took out the catheter that they had put inside me, she's like, as soon as you pee, you can go see your baby in the NICU. So for sure, I was making it into like a mission to pee by myself, you guys. I kept drinking water like crazy, and she's like, as soon as you need to pee, let me know so I can come check on you. So I was like, okay. So then I felt the urge like to pee, and she's like, okay, everything's good, like, you can go to the NICU. As soon as I was able to go, I called my husband, and because he was up there with the baby, and I'm like, hey, I'm gonna go up there and see him. And we went, and I think the first time I was there for like 4 hours, like, just sitting there being with him, you know, because he couldn't come. And like, just to think that people's kids sometimes are there for like months and months and weeks. It's just so sad. Or sometimes the parents get to go home but not the baby. Like, I can't imagine like what that must feel like. I got to be with my baby for a little while, and then I came back, and the pain after that C-section, you guys, was so intense. It literally feels like you can't even stand up straight, like you got hit in your stomach. It's just the most horrible feeling. It literally made me feel nauseous every time I would try to get up and like move around and walk around. But the pain, I only felt it for like the first 5 days. My doctor told me though, for my next pregnancy, if I do plan on having another one, my husband says we're not having another one, but if we do plan on having another baby, if I do become pregnant again later on in the future, that she's like, for your body, for your health, I'm telling you right now, C-section, planned C-section, scheduled C-section is the way you're gonna have to go, because your body cannot handle labor, like, for some reason. And also the fact that my baby stopped growing at 36 weeks, like, he was premature, so I had to keep getting steroid shots as well to make sure that his lungs were developed and everything like that, because he was considered premature. That doesn't make me a weak person. That doesn't make me any less of a mom or less of a, you know, person, less of a woman, because I can't do birth like a lot of other people. Some people can handle birth and some people can't. And I think too, knowing that I would have a scheduled C-section and it would be just as fast, like without the intense pain, without all the craziness, I take that and I do it over again to know that I get to have him. But you guys, that is all for my labor and delivery story. I hope you guys enjoyed this story, and if you have any questions or anything like that, let me know in the comments down below. My next video, I'm going to be sharing my postpartum, how my postpartum has been since my baby's been a month old. I also asked you guys to ask me questions if you had any questions for me on my Instagram. So if you're not following me on my Instagram, make sure that you do. I'll link it down below. But we will see you guys next time. Bye.